Welcome and thanks for joining us for our first Lunch and Learn of 2026. I'm glad everybody could be here. I'm Julie Brown. I'm the Raptor Migration and Programs Director at the Hawk Migration Association. I'm a little bit under the weather, so bear with me if I stop to blow my nose. My colleague, Kat Lauer, is in New Zealand, so I'm running things today with Phil Brown. He's the Bird Conservation Director at the Harris Center here in New Hampshire, where I am. And we're very excited to welcome Dr. Fernando Lopez, or Fer as he is called, to speak about his Merlin research and the predation pressure on piping plovers. He's also going to be touching on his current ornithology project connecting people across the Americas. So I'm excited to hear about that. There's been lots of interest in this program. I think people get really excited about Merlins. I think they're awesome, and I bet all of you do too. To give everybody a little bit of background, we are the Hawk Migration Association is a small nonprofit, and we have a working board. We provide support to the Raptor Migration Monitoring Network, and that's throughout North, Central, and South America. There's about 200 or so Hawkwatch sites that monitor migration during the spring and fall and report those data to hawkcount.org, which is our database. And we provide a lot of resources to the monitoring network, data support, annual grants, educational resources to the public. And we're an active partner of the Raptor Population Index, which is a program that produces conservation assessments and population trend analyses using all that long-term migration data. So you can learn more if you're not familiar with what we do at hawkmigration.org. And we are recording as usual. We are also live streaming on our Facebook page. And you can view any of our past lunch and learns on our website, like last month's wonderful talk about vulture conservation in Europe. That has been added to our website. Just scroll down to the What's New section or visit our Events and Tours tab. We are muting everybody as usual just to avoid distraction, but we'd love to connect with all of you. So chime in, ask questions, make comments in the chat window. Phil is going to be reading questions to Fer at the end. So feel free to ask questions or just tell us where you're joining from today. And if you don't already receive our e-newsletter that goes out once or twice a month, you can put your name and email address in the chat, and I will sign you up to stay up to date with just HMA news and events. So I'll turn things over to Phil to introduce Fer.
Hi, everybody. I'm honored to welcome Fernando Lopez. Fernando Lopez, PhD, is an Argentine ornithologist and ecologist with extensive research experience across the Americas. He completed his PhD studying the reproductive ecology of American kestrels, nesting in natural tree cavities, and has worked on a wide range of topics including raptor ecology, species conservation, and human-wildlife interaction. As a postdoctoral fellow at the Smithsonian Institute, he led research on the satellite tracking and non-lethal management of Merlins to support research recovery efforts for the endangered piping plover in the Great Lakes. Fernando has more than 20 scientific publications in avian ecology and conservation, collaborating with international teams across disciplines. He and his wife, Dr. Amelia Rebolo, ornithologist also, recently launched Et al. Blog, which is www.etalblog.com, and Et al. Blog on various social media platforms. This new project in science communication and public engagement, rooted in the idea of ornithology without frontiers, is aimed at connecting science, people, and biodiversity through a motorhome journey across the Americas. Now I'm glad to welcome Dr. Fernando Lopez. So take it away, Fer.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. Super happy to be here today. Everybody can hear me well and you can see the screen well. You can put your okay. So let's start with this talk, Tracking Merlin and Rethinking the Science in Motion. This talk I split in two different parts. So the first one is about the Merlins, and the second one is about this new project crossing the Americas. Okay, to start this talk, I would like to ask a simple question. It is this kind of question that we as researchers and ecology, we think about all the time. Are there any magic solution for conservation? Probably not. Conservation is complex and is dependent on long-term commitment, strong partnership, and a lot of field work. So before move into the first part of this talk, I would like to thank to all the people and institutions that made this work possible. This also shows the scale of this project. When you work with endangered species and native predator, you need a lot of hands. I want to thanks to Nathan Cooper for the opportunity to lead this project as part of my postdoctoral position at the Smithsonian. I also want to thanks to all the interns and field assistants in Michigan. They working very hard during the breeding season. They were essential to make this happen. And of course, all the institutions involved in this project. As you can see, there are a lot of them, so thank you to all of them. This project started with a classic conservation dilemma, a conflict between two native species. One of them is affecting the population of the others. We are not talking about invasive species. We are not talking about human introduction. This conflict is the result of ecological change during the last 50 years. On one side, we have a predator, and on the other side, we have a bird that is endangered at federal level. Today their interaction creates serious conservation problems. The piping plover is a migratory shorebird. They spend the winter along the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and the southern east of the United States. In spring and summer, they move north to breed. There are three breeding populations: the Atlantic coast in the east, the Northern Great Lakes in the west, and in the middle, the Great Lakes. The Great Lake population is small and isolated. On the other hand, the Merlin is a common raptor that we can find in many areas, in almost the complete northern hemisphere. In North America, they breed in many types of habitats, like boreal forests and open landscapes. In this region, Merlins use abandoned crop nests to breed. These nests are usually high in tall trees. This is something that is different from other parts of the world, because in some areas the Merlin nests on the ground. So both species are native, both are migratory, and both have lived together for a long time. In the 1980s, the Great Lake piping plover population dropped to just 13 breeding pairs. That was a very low number. However, after many years of conservation work, the population increased. Today, there are around the 88 breeding pairs. So that is a big difference if we compare with a couple of years ago. But in recent years, the piping plover population has not increased anymore. And this is a serious problem, because when populations are small, just one bad year can lead to a local extinction. Now let's see the Merlins. This species made a strong recovery after its decline caused by DDT. Merlins are very adaptable. Merlins can breed in forests, in cities, near the coast. In the Great Lake regions, they are stable or increasing. And that is where the conflict begins. Two native species, one is stable or expanding, the other is still complicated. So both are now overlapping in space and time during the breeding season. So managing this conflict is not easy. we have solid evidence of Merlin predation on piping plover. I will show you some of that in a moment. But also we found informal field notes. These are not for the public sharing. Some of them describe cases like this. Let's say we saw a Merlin, the next day the plover was gone, so the Merlin must have taken it. And this situation shows why it is important to separate perception from confirmed evidence. Not every Merlin near a nest is a real threat, but some individuals are, for sure, and that is what we are trying to understand. As response of this predation problem, several management strategies were used. One of the main actions was the use of nest exclusion. These are wire cages places over private nests to keep predators out. They work well against mammal predators, for example, foxes, coyotes, and dogs, but they are less effective with bears. In some cases, the exclusion can even attract bird of prey or ghouls, as you can see in the picture. In fact, also this can be an ecological trap. So in some specific areas, experts have already recommended to stop using these cages. This is another big challenge, the human activity. The Great Lake region is used by many people in many ways. Even with signs and fences, people still bring dogs while they are nesting sites and disturb the area. So in some places, there is a clear lack of empathy for this species and others, of course, but this makes the conservation even more difficult. Despite this challenge, population models for the Great Lake piping plovers show something important. If we can reduce the predation, even with a small amount, we can reduce the risk of extinction in a big way. So this study was published in 2018. They used a population model to test different management strategies for the piping plover. The graph shows the probability of quasi-extinction over 10 years. Quasi-extinction means the population falls below a critical number. In this case, the number was 15 breeding pairs. So when a population gets small, the risk of extinction becomes very serious. So we can see, for example, without predator control, the risk increases fast. If we reduce predation on chicks only, the risk goes down a little, but not enough. And the dark green line show what happens if we control Merlins only. Even that leads to a big reduction of the extinction risks. Then we have the light green that is the most intensive scenario, includes control of all major predators and also increase in productivity and adult survival. But when we compare the two strategic, the two green ones, the difference is not that large. So this tells us something important. Focusing only on Merlins may give similar benefit with less effort, of course, and with less complexity to trying to management this predator. So the model gives us a clear and useful message that was targeted Merlins management could be one of the most effective and efficient strategies to support the piping plover recovery. So in some cities or in some places, lethal control of Merlin has been used as part of this predator management. In one study from Michigan, this strategy showed positive results. It led to higher fletching success and no loss of adults or nets. So yes, lethal control can reduce immediately the predation, but also it can improve the plover survival. However, it is also important. It also has important limitation. New Merlins or other raptors might move in quickly, and not every Merlin it is a real threat. Also, behind the biology, there are ethical and social concerns. This become even more sensitive when we deal with native and protected species. So even if lethal control works in some areas, it is not a simpler or accepted solution. In response to this conflict, we propose a no-lethal management strategy. We use an adaptive approach. The main goal was simple, reduce predation risks from Merlins on Piping Plovers without harming the Merlins. We structured this project around two components. First, the translocation during the breeding season. That means that we take the Merlins and we move to another places. It's a technique that is super common in airports, for example. And the second one was the analysis of space use. But we also took advantage of this field opportunity and tracking technology that we use it. This allows us to collect data on two more aspects. The first was the diet, and the second, the migration and residency patterns. This framework helps us to adjust our actions over the time. So we use this information to improve management as we learn it. It was like a learning by doing process. Each step was given a better knowledge, and that helped us to make better decisions. And how did we do it? We work in Michigan, in the United States, during 3 breeding seasons. Our focus was on signs along the shoreline of the Great Lakes. We were not interested in Merlin nesting far from the coast. We focused only in individuals close enough to can affect piping plovers. This required a lot of field work. We walk a long distance. We drive a lot. During those 3 months, we used to use 2 cars, and each car we drive like 20,000 miles per year. So it's hard to find the Merlins. We did systematic surveys. We actively search for Merlins to locate potential territories. To detect Merlins, we tested different strategies. We listen carefully in the field. You can hear the sound of the Merlin. This is the typical sound that they use during the breeding season. We check recent records on eBirds and with the people. But one of these methods worked best. Driving slowly, super slowly, like 10 miles per hour, with a speaker on the car hood. We play Merlin calls, and in this way was especially effective during some periods of the breeding season. And now I will show you a graph about that. Females are very vocal during the breeding season, so that is a clue that we can use to find Merlins. And they respond right away when they hear another Merlin. So we also test different capture techniques. In total, we capture about one every 3 Merlins we had access to. In some places, landowners did not give us permission to capture. In other cases, people were not in home, so we could not contact them. The Great Lakes region is a place that the people they used to use to spend the vacation there. So there are a lot of empty houses during the spring and summer. So even if we know there was a Merlin territory, we cannot always work there. The most effective capture method was 2 mist nets, 3 meters, small placer near the nest in L shape. And we combine this with a barrel owl call and a taxidermy owl decoy, robotic. We test robotic and non-robotic, and the robotic work best. This usually causes a strong territorial response. The entire process was adaptive. We tested, adjusted, and improved over the time. It was a learning by doing process. Also, we use parakeets from pet stores. We use starlings, but the robotic barrel owl was the best option. Also, this approach allows us to capture Merlins early in the season. That way, we avoid to capture adults that were already nesting. This helps to prevent nest failure or chick death. So we also identify vocal activity patterns. Adults are very vocal before the incubation and after hatching, but during the egg latching and early incubation, they are very quiet. Once Merlin were captured, we follow a standard protocol. First, we band each bird. Then we determine sex based on coloration and weight. Age was estimated using mold patterns. We used GPS transmitters only when the bird was heavy enough. That was an limitation. After that, we released the bird in pre-selected sites. These sites were between 100 and 400 kilometers away, always between Michigan. That was another limitation because we have just permit to work in Michigan state. The sites were California selected, but we also made adjustments based on condition and results. We even tested different directions to explore if that influenced their movement or behavior. These are the GPS transmitters used in the project. We worked with 3 main companies: Lotec, Cellular Tracking Technology, and TechnoSmart. This part of the project was also adaptive. We tested different models. The device ranged from 3 grams to 6.5 grams. The weight of each bird determined which model we use it. In some cases, it was impossible to use a transmitter, and we just banned the birds. Some transmitters working better than others. We compared battery life, data quality, and signal. So as a result, this paper is already publishing. We have the information about translocation, but also we put in that paper all the information about the capture, the technique for capture, or when is the best time to capture, everything to make the work easy for the managers. So this paper, it came out in the Journal of Wildlife Management just a few months ago. And the paper summarized what we learned after 2 years of translocation. The project was in the field 3 years, but the first season, we don't have permit to do translocation. So during the first year, we just learned about space use. We released the Merlin in the same site that we captured. So what happened? We translocated 33 Merlins, and 42% of them did not return to their original territories that same season. That means sound small, but in conservation terms, it is actually a big deal. But of course, that is not the whole history. We want to understand why some birds, Merlins, returned and others did not. So we looked at several things. Remember, sex and age, timing of the season. So we found that the direction, for example. So let's go one by one. First, the age. This one was clear. Younger birds, that means second years ones, were less likely to return. Older adults return more often to the same nesting site. And honestly, that makes sense because the experience matters. The sex. Female were less likely to return than males, but the difference was not significant. So maybe there is a trend, but we cannot say for sure. The direction of translocation. Merlins that were moving eastward direction were less likely to return than those moving north or south, possibly because of their migration orientation, but we still need to study that more. Other variables like the timing of the season do not have effects. If we capture the Merlin early or late in the season, it's the same. So now focus again on this 42%. Even when the translocation worked well, there was a catch. In at least 2 cases, other Merlins come in and occupy the territory. So just moving one bird does not always remove the risk. It is a dynamic system, and that is super common, in, I guess, in ecology. From a management perspective, this means translocation can work, especially if we target younger birds and we use east-west movement, but recolonization is possible. So this tool should be adaptive, and we need to use it as part of a broader strategy. What else we can do? This study suggests a few additional actions that can help to the managers. For example, is remove the Merlin nests early in the season before eggs are laid. Also remove all crop nests because the Merlins, they use this kind of nests and they can reuse them. And I'll always combine this with ongoing monitoring so we can adapt as needed. In conclusion, the translocation is not a magic solution. So now let's go to about the species. This paper is under review, it's in methodological application. We have to have some news soon, I hope, because we sent this like 2-3 months ago. I don't remember, but well, so far, this part of the study, we tracked 32 Merlins that showed range residency. That means that we have enough points that we can collect this type of data and answer this type of question. So basically, this means that they stay within a defined area during the breeding season. Now, what did we find? So, in average, their home range was about the 46 square kilometers. That means around the 3.8 kilometers from the center. But that is just in average. In reality, this area were often quite irregular in shape. Some Merlins even moved up to 21 kilometers away from the nest. So, and then we asked, what factor explain those differences? Well, we find 2 variables that come up. First, the sex. Males tending to use larger areas than females, likely because they are more active in foraging while the female is standing near the nest. They need to define the territory so from other predators or on other competitors. So that is something that we found. And second, the translocation. The Merlins that had been translocated used largest area. So it seems that the translocation had a clear effect on their space use. We are affecting them when we are moving them to another places. So probably they move around more, probably exploring and trying to settle in new places. So, but that is the key here is like they are using more space when we are doing translocation. Then we look at habitat use, and this part it is interesting. We found that forest areas were the most frequently used habitats. And remember, we just have the permit to catch Merl close to the shoreline of the Great Lakes. So with this information, in general, the Merlins are avoided the shoreline. And why does that matters? Because Piping Plover nest on shoreline. So if Merlin are avoiding those areas, that reduces the actual predation risks in many cases. Of course, there is still individual variations. Some birds might go near to the shore, but in overall, this is a good news. It means that we can start to refine our management, focusing only where the overlapping is high between these two species, rather than assuming that every Merlin near the coast is a threat. Now, what about the movement of residency? Well, we saw is that Merlins do both. So they can migrate long distance and others stay year around. But before showing some of this, I want to quickly explain this table because it gives you a sense of how we follow each individual over the time. Each row is a different bird, and each column is a week of the year. So basically, it's a timeline for every Merlin we track. For each week, we collect points every day. We collect between 1 point to 7 points per day, depending on the timing of the season. We collect more points during the breeding season, and then when they move or during the winter, we just collect 1 point or 3 points, depends. So the green is when they were in the breeding area. Blue marks the winter grounds. Orange means that they were on the move, probably migrating. And red is when the transmission is stopped to working. So they failed or something happened with the bird. In one case, we even saw that a Merlin flying we attacked is still on, but we only got 2 days of data. And that is exactly why we use multiple tags, types, and brands. The ping at the end in the last season showed the last season in which we had mortality alert. And that was because that year we had new models. Lotec was working in this kind of device. So the thing is, we were right at the technological limit in terms of weight. So this tag cannot weigh more than a few grams. So we were working with the smallest, most advanced models that we can find. And maybe in a few years, this will not be such a limitation anymore. But during this study, that was our limitation. Now let's go back to the movement. So after looking at the general timeline, we want to see how far some of these Merlin actually went. And well, this is impressive. Some individuals migrate all the way to the Caribbean, places like Dominican Republic or Cuba. 2 of them cross from the Caribbean to Colombia and Venezuela. And that is crazy because it's a journey over 4,000 kilometers in less than 2 weeks. Others, Merlins took a different strategic. They stay right in the Michigan all year long. We also saw variations in return behavior. Some birds went back to the same nesting territory, while others settled in different areas, but in Michigan, close to the previous territory. So the message here is Merlin show a lot of flexibility. They can migrate thousands of kilometers, or they can be fully resident. And that matters a lot for management because it means we can assume they all behave the same. So now let's talk a little about diet. We use 2 complementary methods to study Merlin were eating. The first method was prey, remain, and pellets identification. This work was done by Carla Dobbs' team at the Smithsonian Feather Identification Lab. They are the same group who identify bird species from the Miracle on the Hudson plane crash, for example, and they work with airports and government agencies across the US. They receive around 10,000 samples per year, so they are the best doing this. The second method was the DNA metabar coding. That part is being led by Jesus Maldonado team at the Center for Conservation Genomics of Smithsonian. This part is still in process. We have some issues with contamination and protocol optimization. We are following 2 papers, but difficult to replicate yet. Where we are working through those, and hopefully we will have more results soon. For this case, we use swabs. We collect the sample for the talons, the bills, and the cloaca. Anyway, so far, using pellets and pre-remains, we identify 59 bird species, mostly small and common forest birds. The time you will expect to find near nesting areas in the forest. So all this evidence suggests that merlins in this ratio are not actively preying on piping plover. Now, of course, we know that piping plover are much less available than most of the other species. However, even considering that, there is a clear trend to prey on birds away from the shoreline. So, in conclusion, what did we learn? We tracked a real-world conservation conflict, a predator versus an endangered species, but along the way, we also expanded our ecological understanding of merlins, their movement, space use, migration, and diet. We saw that predator-prey dynamics can be more complex than expected, and that not all individuals pose the same level of risk. We showed that adaptive non-lethal tools like translocation can be useful when lethal control is not an option. So translocation showed promise, but it was not a definitive solution. Many merlins eventually returned to the same areas, and in some cases, other individuals reoccupied that vacant territory. So what does this tell us? Translocation is a valuable tool. It's okay, but it works best when it's used as part of a broader and adaptive management strategy. Merlin shows impressive spatial memory and orientation. Their ability to return after long-distance translocation suggested advanced cognitive and navigation skills. This finding adds to the growing evidence that raptors are not only efficient hunters, but also high adaptables and intelligence. Not all merlins represent the same level of risk. Their presence does not always mean danger. Some individuals might require closer monitoring than others. Again, the intelligence and adaptability of merlins require dynamic management. They show flexible behavior, and that means there is no unique formula. What works one year or which one individual might maybe not work with another. So management must be adaptive, ready to adjust in real time, based on what we observe in the field. Based on our finding, we propose a tiered, spatially explicit risk of framework. This means managers can evaluate each case individually, considering the bird, the place, and the context. It is not about one solution for all. Some areas might require translocation, others might just need monitoring. In the end, maybe there are not magic solutions in conservation, but science gives us better tools to make smarter decisions and more effective actions. Well, based on what we learned, we propose a simple risk scale depending on how close merlin are to piping plover nest. If a merlin is within 8 kilometers, that is high risk. In those cases, we recommended taking direct action like translocation, nest removal, or using deterrents like lasers, drones, or pyrotechnic, something that was used on the past. Between 8 and 21 kilometers, that is a medium risk. Here we suggest acting only if there is evidence that merlin is actually a threat, of if there are enough resources to do something. Now we are in a context that the lack of resource, it is a problem. So in this case, we can use this framework. Behind 21 kilometers, the risk is low. Those Merlin are not a potential problem, so no action is needed. This framework can help managers to prioritize better. These are the most important outcome of the whole Merlin project. So now, the second part of this talk. Our postdoc came to an end in 2025. The research was wrapping up, papers were published or under review, and then come the big question for people like us: what now? Do we apply for more postdoc? But where? Do we go back to Argentina? Well, the truth is, science is under a lot of pressure there. Funding is complicated, opportunities are limited, and long-term stability is really hard to find. So we took a pause. We stepped back and thought, maybe it is time to do something different, not to leave science, but to approach it from another angle. And that is how this new project started. Just like in the Merlin project, here too, there is a team behind the scene, but in this time, it is a different kind of team, a family. My wife, our cat, and I. We have been together for almost 18 years. We have built our scientific careers step by step. From Patagonia and La Pampa to institutions like CONICET in Argentina or Smithsonian or Virginia Tech in the US. We studied, researched, published, mentored, collaborated. And now we chose not to apply for the next academic position. We decide to take everything we have learned and bring it into the world in a new way. Not a break from science, but a different way of living it and sharing it. That is how et al. Was born, a family science project on the road, and honestly, who has not dreaming or just hitting the road? A different kind of journey, guided by science, nature, and curiosity. So we revived an old dream, traveling across the America. It was something that we almost did during the pandemic, but for one reason or another one, we didn't go for it. But then come this big question: how do we actually do it? We could not just live and see what happened. That is not our style. We want to see what happened next. So we thought, what if we turn this into a project, a way to keep doing science on the road and share it with the world? So we started designing this journey, combining traditional science with modern storytelling and science communication, and all while traveling in motorhome. We just started 4 months ago, and we are still learning about this new lifestyle. So the project is calling ITAL blog, Ornithology Without Frontier. ITAL comes from scientific paper. It means and others, and that is exactly what we live in. Science grows through collaboration. This is a journey from Alaska to Argentina, recording birds, connecting communities, and sharing science along the way. We believe that it is a perfect time to rethink how science is communicated, especially through alternative channels. That is why through our blog and social media, we are sharing how ecology and conservation are done in different parts of the Americas, with a special focus, of course, on birds. We want to show another way to doing science, open, human, and closer to the people. Communication is the heart or the pillar of this project, but we approach it in many different ways, each with a specific role and audience. First, we use digital platforms or blog and social media channels allows to connect with a wide audience. We just started, we are growing, but we track reach, impressions, engagement, but also pay attention to the sentiment behind the comments and message. We are also working on 2 books. One of them is Anecdotes. It is a collection of field stories, funny, moving, unexpected, that reflect the human side of the ornithology. The second book, both are in process. We created an educational guide, Ornithology Without Frontier, to help birders to take the next step from bird watching into actual science. Then we have field basic action, for example, a vulture census from Alaska to Argentina using eBird. The goal is not just the data, but it is helping people to understand this bird better, because sometimes the people will say, I don't like the vultures, but we explain all the role that they have in the ecosystem. And after that, they start to say, okay, now I like a little bit. Then we use photo and video as tool for both art and science to tell visual story during the travel. Also workshop about banding, data analysis, and science communication, because we want to stay connected with the academy. So this is coming soon, so be alert. And of course, we continue writing scientific papers, giving talk, and leading birding trip wherever we go, connected with local communities. As we started sharing this idea with friends and college, something amazing began to happen. Many of them, researchers, educators, and conservationists, said, this is amazing, how can we help? Little by little, institutions began to join, not just supporting, but truly co-creating with us. And let's not forget, this is all started just 4 months ago with a wild, crazy idea. So Black Mountain Sanctuary becomes our main and only sponsor for now. We have to have more in the future, but we work in many ways together. I am former trainee from Black Mountain, and I really thank them for all their support over all these years. Then coming a growing network of partners and collaborators from Argentina and across the America, each of them bringing something unique to the project. Of course, we cannot support ourselves fully yet, we are planting the seeds. This support helps us grow, share our work, and connect with more people. It is not longer just an idea, it is a community in motion now. If you would like to support this journey, there are many ways to be part of this. Individuals can help through small donations. Also, if you want, you can be a big donation. We are welcome to receive it. But we have an estimation for this trip that with $1, we can make 1 kilometer. So every small action moves us forward. Institutions can help by sharing content, giving support, or helping more people hear about our project. So if you like to join us or knew someone who might, let's talk. You can write us through our website or email. We also have a long-term objective, and everyone can be part of this. At the end of this journey, it's not clear yet, probably in 2 years, we plan to create the Argentina first bird banding station open to the public. We don't have bird banding station open to the public in Argentina. We can do bird banding, but just researcher so we want to create that. And of course, researchers and people from around the world are welcome to join us. It will be a place for science, education, and collaboration. We hope to raise funds, secure lands, and build an NGO to support its future. Also, another way that you can help us is if you want to follow this journey, we are on social media as etalblog on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and more. You can visit our website, etalblog.com. There you will find our videos, history from the road, scientific content, papers, and they became the scene from the field. On YouTube, we are documenting this journey, but with a little delay. That is intentional for safety reasons. We don't post in real time. Right now, we are in Mexico. Some areas it is complicated. So for that is the reason. But we are in Mexico, but the adventure continues. Our plan is to reach Alaska in June, going to the west coast, crossing through Canada, and returning along the east coast. We hope to visit friends and colleagues along the way, like those at Hack Mountain. If you are somewhere on this road, we would like to meet you. So thanks for joining us. From Merlins to Motorhome, we are happy to answer any question. I am here with my wife, also part of this project. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Fer. That was a really fascinating program, and we appreciate you shedding some light on a species that we probably a lot of us get to interact with a lot, but know very little about. So it's very interesting to learn more about Merlins and to hear about your exciting project underway. So thanks for sharing that as well. We did get some great questions, but first of all, I need to know, where is that photo taken of you guys looking at hawks against the mountains?
That is in Argentina. I have forgot the name of that.
Es Jujuy-Calilegua.
No, it's not Calilegua, it's in Catamarca. I don't remember now the name of that national park. But yeah, it's an amazing place. We were looking for kind vultures there. We're trying to find them. We didn't see nothing that day, but we saw a lot of condors and turkey and black vultures.
Well, I bet a lot of us would enjoy hawk watching there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll jump into the questions now, and hopefully I'll catch all of these, but I'm going to take a sweep and see what comes in at the end here. So I'll start in the beginning with a question from Frank. He said, it appears that Merlins are coastal birds. Are there other raptors that compete with them in coastal areas, such as peregrine falcons? Do you know anything about that?
We don't know yet. Actually, during these 3 years, there was just 1 year that in a place was a Merlin nest that was using like the previous year, and the last year where there was I don't remember, it was a Cooper hawk or a red shoulder in Illinois school.
Red Shirt.
Red shoulder. That was the reason that the Merlin lost the nest. So they are another raptors competitors, of course. We saw peregrines, kestrels, but honestly, no. Maybe some we found a couple of times feathers of owls. So we know that the barred owls can prey over Merlins. So, but yes. Also, another interesting thing is that, for example, in the Michigan Lake, the shoreline is used by many raptors during the migration. Raptors, songbirds. So, and that is a point that we consider for this, because if we saw a Merlin, that doesn't mean that there are Merlin. There probably is just a Merlin flying to north. It's a migrant Merlin, and it's not a real threat. But basically, yeah. Back into the question. I don't know.
So no direct predation.
No.
Okay. Oh, thank you. All right, we'll jump to Helene's question. Helene asks, when selecting translocation sites, did you evaluate the impact of introduced Merlins on resident species, whether that be piping plovers or other species?
Yeah, we select the places based on different things. We have some rules to follow for that. First, we choose places far from piping plover nest. That was the key, I guess. We move far from them. The second one, we try to select places similar in aspect that the places that we capture the Merlins. So if we try to remove to another area, quite similar. Also, we try to avoid airports because that is a hazard for airports. So we don't want to lose a Merlin, and also we don't want to lose a transmitter. They are very expensive, so that was another reason. And also when we go to these places to make the release of the Merlins, we play the sound, the call of Merlin to see if there are another Merlins in the area, because we don't want to have problems between Merlins. We don't want to put in risk another family of Merlins. But that was the rule that we follow. But we were very open to choice places between Michigan, always between Michigan.
Okay, thank you. On that very topic, can you answer how far away from airports was your minimum distance for releasing?
I don't remember exactly, but it was like 15 or 20 kilometers, if I remember well.
Yeah, we have the numbers.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was like I guess we're 15.
Okay, good distance away. All right. Trudy asks, you mentioned removal of nests as one alternative. How effective was that compared to the translocation, I guess, for the
We
success?
didn't test it yet. We just
Okay.
proposed that. We know the Fish and Wildlife Service, they will remove nests in the past in some cases, but when we ask, we don't have the answer what happened after that. But at least we know that if 58% of the Merlin are returning to the nesting site, so it is important to remove and try to, at least the Merlin that they are closer to the Piping Plover, remove the nest, and they can go to another pine and try to find another nest for that season.
Thank you. Lori asks, if you moved birds farther, do you think it would be more effective, particularly with males?
It's a good question, but it's hard to know. I think the results, I don't know, depends. Because we know that with this data that the Merlin can go to the Caribbean, so 4,000 kilometers. So, and they go back to the same spot next year. So 100, 400, 4,000 kilometers, maybe it's nothing. Maybe we need to move to another continent. But I don't know if it is possible. We believe that they are super smart and they can find a way to return. They are super hormonal during the breeding season. They can find a way to return to the site that we capture them.
Okay, and Matt asks, were the translocated birds always pre-incubation?
Yeah, that was one limitation that we have. It was a problem many times because as I show a video, for example, that the chicks were there. So in that case, it was impossible to move them. But in those cases, we capture, in some cases, the adults, and we put the Technosmart transmitter, and we use that as control. So we release them in the same spot, and that was something good, at least.
Okay, thank you. We just have about 3 more questions here. So are you okay going over a couple of minutes there?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Kim asks, and I think others have this comment as well, how did the resident versus long-range migration data break down in terms of age and sex? Were there any trends, I guess, that came out of that as far as distance of migration?
Sorry, can you repeat?
I think the question related to distance of migration trends in terms of age and sex of Merlins. Those maps were very interesting, but you said it seemed like they were there what maybe wasn't a clear trend.
No, there was just with the age we found something. With the sex, we don't find nothing interesting. Just like a trend, but no statistically significant. Something that another limitation that we have, but we used Chilean models, for example, to see what happened. And the low number of Merlin that we capture is a limitation when you are doing statistics. So maybe if we can capture more Merlins and we can add more variables at that equation that we use, maybe we can have better predictions. But
about migration, not about translocation.
About migration, no.
Yeah,
no. Actually, the migration paper is in progress. So I didn't run the analysis yet.
Yeah.
Okay. We look forward to hearing more about that. Nora had a comment about the information indicating that Merlins are predating on plovers where they co-occur. She asks, on what basis are Merlins described as having individual variation in being plover threats?
Do you want to answer? Sorry, she's my wife, Emilia.
Hi, I'm Amy. I don't know if you have the camera or just okay.
She was part also of this project of Merlins, and she was part of the translocation papers too. So
yeah, but we don't know about individuals. Like during the field season, we never saw a Merlin catching a piping plover or be more specific predating over plovers. But plovers are only a few, so one plover is a big number to the species. So this is the key problem, it's like try to protect all of them because they are few.
Yeah, that is something that I put in when we run the data analysis, that we know that the availability of piping plover probably is less than another kind of birds. But with the data that we collect, we know that the Merlins are avoiding the shoreline. So that is something that is good. Anyway, if a Merlin is going, for example, in South Manitou Island and North Manitou Island and Sleeping Bird, that is a national park, they're the biggest community of population of plover in the area, around the 50 pairs. We know that in the years that we were there working, there was at least 3 pairs of Merlins. So in that case, it's like probably yes, and the Merlins are going to the shoreline. And the data that we collect with the transmitter, we know that the Merlins can go to the shoreline. But there was a uncommon situation on an island. So a mainland is like it looks different.
Okay, let me just clarify here. Nora clarified her question and asked on what basis you stated that Merlins predate the plovers, especially as the DNA analysis did not show it. I think she's asking about how do we know that Merlins are a major threat to plovers besides
there
what
are
has been recorded.
I understand. There are a previous paper that showed that the Merlins are increasing and plovers are in decline. So, and there are like cameras on the nest, but those are previous work than is not our work, But there are videos where Merlins are going to the nest directly.
Actually, I showed a couple of cases with Merlins inside. So we know that in some cases the Merlins are a problem.
Yep.
We know that they're another problem like the ghouls, coyotes, they're in trap cameras.
Raccoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of species involved in this.
Yeah, but
conflict.
the main thing is like Merlins can catch the adults. So this is a big problem compared to species that can predate over the nest. That is also a problem, but the adults, we need to try to protect more the adults in the population.
Right.
And by the way, with the piping plover community or the researchers that are working there, they're doing an amazing job. We have the opportunity to share time with them We saw how they are working. They are doing egg incubation. All the piping plovers are banded, so that is something that is unique, I guess, for the people like us, like to work in ecologies in community levels or population level. When you know each individual bird, that is amazing, and you can create amazing statistics or models to see what happens in the future.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Fer, and thank you, Amelia, for your help as well. I'll turn it back over to Julie to wrap things up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, thank you to both of you for this, for taking the time and for your great research. It's really an interesting look into that interaction that I wasn't aware of in that area. And best of luck to you in your travels and adventures and connecting people through birds. It's a great concept, and I want to come. Phil and I want to come.
Okay.
We'll be
Everybody-
checking out your blog for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, looking ahead to next month, we have some really great Lunch and Learn events scheduled for the next year. And for February, we're going to be hearing from Nick Bolgiano. He's a hawk watcher and researcher in Pennsylvania. And he's going to be talking about what we are learning about golden eagles in North America's eastern flyway. So that's actually just a couple weeks from now. We kind of jump around in the month sometimes for different Wednesdays. So February 11th, we'll be listening to that talk from Nick, and you can register now on our Facebook page or on our website. I'll also be sending around an e-newsletter where you can register there. I'll quickly also mention that it's winter raptor season now. It's the perfect time of year to start a survey. Beginners are always welcome. You can basically create a driving route in your area, look for raptors from your car. It's a really fun activity for the winter months. So if you're interested in learning more, you can check out hawkmigration.org/winter raptor survey. I think Phil put it in the chat here. And lastly, if you value programming like this, like Lunch and Learn, we encourage you to join our kettle and to become a member. And you can do that at hawkmigration.org/support. And your support allows us to provide educational programs to keep hawk count up and running, and to offer lots of support to the Raptor Migration Monitoring Network. So thanks everybody again for joining today. Thank you to our speakers, and we hope to see you next month. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
you.